Nancy, thanks. And for a look at the data, I want to turn to CBS News Elections Director Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, thank you so much for being with us on Red and Blue. Let me start off by asking you, what do special elections like this tell us? And specifically, what about this particular special election?
Well, no one special election can predict the future. But what happens is people look at these in off-year elections and they say, well, here's a data point. Here's something people are voting. What are they voting on? And as Nancy explained, the Democrats have really pinned a lot of hopes on this for two reasons in terms of the electorate. One is that they see a lot of Republicans, they see a lot of college-educated Republicans, the kind of voter that they had hoped would come over to them in 2016, but eluded them. So in some respects, they think this may be another chance to do that. And the second one is, can they turn out and motivate their base? There were a lot of places in the country where that turnout fell short, the enthusiasm fell short, and what they're hoping now is if a chance to, as Nancy explained, vote against President Trump, if they see that as a symbolic vote, that they'll be able to turn out that base.
So you have some brand new analysis of the early vote. What can you tell us about that?
Right. Well, in Georgia, as in a lot of states, voters can cast ballots in advance, either by absentee or in some places they can go and vote early. So we get a look at the kinds of voters who have voted already. We don't know how they voted, but you can start to get a sense. And one thing we see already is that the partisanship, or what we think is the partisanship, of a lot of these voters is running about even between Democrats and Republicans. Much more even than it typically does in this district because it's a Republican district. So one thing that tells you is that at a minimum, the Democrat is competitive. And that's something that the polls have shown as well, that he may get somewhere in the, say, mid-40s if he doesn't, crack that 50% mark, and then the rest of the Republicans might be a fractured field behind him.
What about Democrats getting the vote out? I mean, are they energized here? What is it that you are finding?
Yeah, what you can look at when you look at the voter files, what you see is people's past voter history. What have they done before? Well, one of the narratives here is, can Democrats turn out brand new voters who maybe sat out in 2016, but now they're energized? That's part of the story. Well, if you look at the early vote, most of the folks who've already cast ballots did vote in 2016, the overwhelming number, in fact. So what you get a sense is they haven't quite turned out brand new voters yet, but this one will probably turn on how well they can do at getting their base out as opposed to the Republicans trying to now get out their base and go head-to-head.
So what should we be watching on Election Day itself?
Well, this is a district that is spread out around northern Atlanta suburbs. It's a little wealthier, as I mentioned. It's got more college graduates. But when you see the vote come in, you're going to look at 3 counties, one of them in DeKalb, where there are more Democrats relative to the rest of the district. So if that county contributes a sizable portion of the vote as it comes in, that may be a good sign for the Democrats. If it doesn't, then that's a sign that even if the Democrat finishes ahead, and this is the key sort of rules everybody should remember, even if he finishes ahead, he's got to get 50%. If nobody gets 50%, we're back here again for a runoff to decide the seat. So that's the thing to watch tomorrow night.
All right, we will be watching closely. CBS News Elections Director Anthony Salvanto, thank you so much. Really appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks, Ellie.